This video is different from the others in the series. In the first 5 videos, I talked about what Lyme and co-infections do to your body, how they starve your cells of oxygen, how they shut down your mitochondria, and how they trap you in a loop of inflammation and fatigue and failed treatments. And I told you what finally helped me physically. It was EWOT, red light, what I call the oxygen synergy system. But there's another side to this that almost nobody talks about. And honestly, it makes as big of a difference in my recovery as anything physical. Lyme doesn't just attack your body, it attacks your mind, your spirit, your sense of who you are. And it does it on purpose. Now let me explain what I mean. These infections are incredibly intelligent. Anyone who tells you they're a dumb bacteria is either not paying attention or they're lying to you. They lower your body's energy, and that low energy is physically depressing. Not emotionally depressing because you're sad that you're sick, although that happens too, but biochemically depressing. Your cells don't have the energy to regulate your mood. Your neurotransmitters are depleted. Your nervous system is fried. Depression isn't a character flaw when you have Lyme. It's a symptom. Your body literally doesn't have the resources it needs to feel okay. And then there's how the symptoms behave. They're shifting, they rotate, they turn on and off like someone's flipping switches. One week it's joint pain. The next week, pain fades and the brain fog gets worse. Then the fog lifts and suddenly it's nerve pain you haven't felt in months. It's like playing whack-a-mole. And every time you think you're getting somewhere, every time you think, okay, maybe this is improving, something new pops up or something old comes back. And each time that happens, it breaks your spirit a little more. It's not random. These organisms benefit from you being depleted, discouraged, and defeated. A weakened immune system is a better environment for them. Let me say this cleanly. Your misery is their strategy. I'm going to say it again. Your misery is the strategy. And then you layer in everything else. The medical establishment gaslighting you, doctors telling you Lyme doesn't exist in your state, or that ticks can't cross state lines, or that you can only get these diseases from a tick bite. And since you don't remember one, you must not have it. Or my personal favorite, you took 3 weeks of antibiotics so you no longer have Lyme disease. You just have post-Lyme disease syndrome. Even though your symptoms are identical to what they were before the antibiotics. I mean, how nonsensical. So now the people who are supposed to help you are telling you that the thing that's destroying your life either doesn't exist or it's already cured. Then there's, of course, the people around you. Family members who care but can't understand, who offer advice that makes no sense because they have no frame of reference for what you're going through. Friends who start to drift away, not because they're bad people, because they recognize they no longer fit in your life, or you no longer have a life to fit inside theirs. Spouses who are questioning why they should spend another $5,000 or $10,000 on the next treatment when all the other ones didn't work. And you can't blame them. They just want back the person they married or they started dating. But you can't give them that person right now because you can't get out of bed. And then there's children. Kids who look disappointed when you can't show up for them. Or even worse, kids who simply come to accept that this is who you are, that you're the parent who can't. They've never known you any other way, or they've forgotten the version of you that could. The layers of guilt for something running out of control in your body. All of it beats you down. Layer after layer after layer. Physical symptoms, the medical dismissal, the isolation, the guilt, the financial strain, and the relationships crumbling. And it's all connected. Because the more beaten down you are emotionally and spiritually, the weaker your immune system gets. And the weaker your immune system gets, the more the infections thrive. These infections know this. At some fundamental biological level, they know this. The more they beat you up and the more they beat you down, the easier their survival is. But here's what I learned, and this might be the most important thing I can say in this entire series. You can have a conversation with the bacteria. Now hear me out. This is not as woohoo as it may sound at first. These organisms already are having a conversation with you. They tug at your vagus nerve and make you feel a certain way. They influence your cravings so that you eat foods that cause more inflammation, foods that make your body more hospitable to them. They affect your decision making and your emotions. They beat down your spiritual self. They do all of this with the biological intention because a depleted, hopeless host is exactly where they want to live. And I realized one of the most powerful weapons I had, one that didn't cost anything, didn't require a supplement, and didn't add another ceremony to my day, was to talk back. Not just positive thinking, not just telling myself things would get better. I mean deliberately, intentionally bringing hope back into my body. I would close my eyes and imagine what a healthy future looked like. Not in some vague, wishful way. I would picture it. I would feel it. What would it feel like to wake up with energy? What would it feel like to make plans and keep them? What would it feel like to be present with my kids? To be the person I used to be? And I wouldn't say what I hope to do. I would say what I am going to do. And I would force myself to believe it in my heart. And I would sit with that feeling just for a few minutes. I would let that hope and that joy into my heart and into my body. And I believed that when I did this, I was having a conversation with those bacteria. I was telling them something they didn't want to hear, that they couldn't beat me, that while they were trying their hardest to break me down, I could still find joy and positivity that they could not extinguish. There's a point in my recovery where I started literally talking to them out loud. I would sit in a quiet room by myself and I would say, I don't care how hard you work, you will never defeat me. You will never overcome me. I will never stop until there is no safe harbor for you in my body. I will fight to the very edges of my territory to make this as inhospitable and as painful for you as I possibly can. And there's nothing you can do to extinguish my flame. You've tried everything you can. You've had me at my weakest and you couldn't break me. I'm regenerating right now as we speak, and I'm making life more miserable for you. I'm giving you less territory to claim. Each day, maybe not each hour, but each day, you're going to find yourself in smaller caves in my body, fighting me as I reclaim space, as I reclaim my health. Now, do I think the bacteria could hear my words? No. Do I think they understood the English language? Of course not. But when I said those things, my body reacted. Biochemically, physiologically, something shifts. My heart rate changes. My breathing changes. The neurochemicals my brain releases. I could feel something in my chest. A warmth, a strength, something I hadn't had in a long time. And those biological changes, those biochemical changes, they were having a real conversation with the bacteria. At a cellular level, at a chemical level, my body was communicating something different than it had been. I was taking territory back through my thoughts, through my intentions, through my refusal to let this thing have my spirit on top of everything else it had taken from me. That's something nobody told me about during my years of being sick. Nobody told me my thoughts were a weapon, a real biological weapon. And if I went beyond the bacteria conversation, I started looking at every part of my life through a different lens. I realized there were toxic patterns. I'd been living with these patterns for years. I was burning the candle at both ends and measuring my worth by productivity. I was allowing people into my life who used me, people who drained me spiritually, physically. I allowed them to stay because I felt guilty about setting boundaries. I had to learn to put myself first, not selfishly, but strategically. Because every person, every commitment, every obligation that was draining me was also feeding the infection. Every ounce of energy I gave to someone who didn't deserve it was energy my body couldn't use to heal. I started setting firmer boundaries without guilt, without remorse. I started being intentional about who was in my life, what thoughts I allowed into my head, how much of myself I gave away versus how much I kept for my own recovery. And that shift, the mental shift, the spiritual shift, and the boundary shift, when I combined them with EWOT and red light, combined with my physical foundation I'd built, that was when everything started to really come together for me. Because you can flood your body with oxygen, you can stimulate your mitochondria, you can give every cell resources they need, but if your mind and your spirit is still defeated, if you're still pouring your energy into toxic relationships and toxic patterns, if you've surrendered hope to the disease, you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back. What I want you to know is that your thoughts matter, your boundaries matter. Who you allow in your life matters. What you tell yourself and what you tell the bacteria, it matters. I want to leave you with this. If you're in a dark place right now, where the symptoms keep shifting, the doctors keep dismissing you, the people around you don't understand, you're not sure you have the strength to keep going, I need you to hear something. The fact you're still here, still watching this, still looking for answers after everything you've been through, that means you haven't been beaten. They've had you at your worst. They couldn't finish the job. You are still here. And from where I'm sitting, as someone who's been in that exact same space, that tells me everything I need to know about what you're capable of. Don't let them have your spirit. That's the one thing they need from you, that you get to choose whether or not you give it. Choose not to. If this series has been helpful to you, I'd ask you share it with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's in this fight, whose family doesn't understand, or maybe someone who's losing hope. And if you want everything I've talked about in this series in one simple guide, I put together a simpler path to Lyme recovery. It covers my story, the framework, the protocol, and how to start all in one place. The link is below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for trusting me with your time. And keep going. You've got this.